Hello, my witchy friends. We're back again with another video. It's week 9 and 10 for the YouTube Pagan Challenge, and hopefully this will be kind of a short video because I find that I don't really have a lot to say on these two subjects for these weeks, which is partly why I feel like I've been sort of delaying making these videos, and in turn I also decided to just turn it into one video because it seemed like a waste of time to kind of make two videos that you guys would have to suffer through, which would basically all say the same couple things. So to start, week 9 subject is, do you have or have you had a journal or diary of your experiences? And really, I'm not a diary person. I've tried a couple times. I write notes down a lot, but I'm not really the type of person to write down everything that happened in my day on a day-to-day basis. I think mostly I write down important things that I feel that I don't ever want to forget, but typically that doesn't happen in a diary form. It usually happens like on my Tumblr or on my blog, instead of being, paper and pen. Not because I don't love writing that way, but I just have no real reason to. I don't feel it's necessary for my craft. I don't feel that I do enough, I guess, that requires me to write down, like, oh, I did this spell, I need to write down what I did. But on the other hand, I would say the closest thing to that is my Book of Shadows, is my grimoire. And the reason for that is because if I like a spell, I write it down. If I like a ritual, I write it down. If there is an experience, such as like I met someone that gave me information, I'll write down their information and I'll write down what they told me and I'll write down about them. But like I said, I don't really write about my specific experiences. Like, I'm not going to sit down and reflect necessarily in the written form about, a Sabbat. I experienced it once, I lived it, it happened, it'll happen again next year. I don't see the point. I think it's a good option for younger people, in the sense that they're younger in the craft, that they might benefit from writing down what they do and what they don't like about what they've done, as well as reflecting on what they believe. But mainly, your Book of Shadows is for that. I mean, that is its purpose, that you make it, it's kind of like your Bible. It's your witch Bible. You put everything in there that you find is important, and that's going to change over time anyway. So, I mean, if it's a personal question, really. It comes down to the type of person that you are. And I've watched a couple other videos on this week's topic, and everybody else seems to feel kind of the same way. I do see that a lot of people kind of plan things out, like they use a planner, which actually kind of inspired me to kind of want to get one, mainly so that I can more accurately track what I'm doing, in the sense that I can write down when I'm going to do my rituals, when I'm going to make moon water, which I'll get into later because that's the next subject. But that I did take away from this week's topic as something that I might work on, but it's not going to be a diary. It's going to be a planner, and it's going to be like on a month-to-month basis, writing down important dates and when I'm going to do things, so that I can kind of look back over the year and say, well, these are all the things I actually do, versus these are the things that I want to do, or wanted to do but didn't get to do. And maybe that will kind of work in a good way of, organizing my craft, which I don't necessarily think that I need to organize it, only because, nature doesn't organize itself in the sense that every couple months you have to do something, or that every week you have to do something, or even that every day you need to do something for your craft. And because I am part of a nature religion that doesn't really have any confines or rules, in the sense that, you know, you have to go to church on Sunday or something every Sunday without fail, or you will go to hell type concept, which, you know, that works for some people. But since I don't really have that, I don't feel the need that I need to track every little thing that I do. But it will probably be good to plan ahead a bit. So that's what I feel about week 9. So, you know, let's go into week 10, which hopefully will be a bit more of a positive concept that I'm going to talk about now, which is, how do you feel about the moon phases? And honestly, the moon phases are one of the most important concepts that we have. And it's not just in our craft or in magic at all. It's really just in nature, because the world is ruled by the moon phases. And I mean, everyone notices when it's going to be a full moon, because if you work in retail of any site, or you work with people, you notice that people get a little bit whacked out. People really they act differently based on the phases of the moon. And, you know, our tides are in the water are based on the moon, that the tide are affected by that. And so if you are into water magic, or you are a sea witch of any type, obviously you're going to have something to do with the moon, and you're going to probably, you know, work with it a lot more than necessarily everybody else does. Also, we have to remember that the moon has often been called La Lune. And, you know, there are people that, you know, compare the moon to the goddess as well. I don't necessarily, but I can understand where they get that from. And for me personally, what I use the moon phases for is, you know, harnessing power of different types. And I don't know if anybody remembers, I'm sure they do, but not necessarily recently. I think it was back in October or November, we had the big orange moon, and there's dark moons, and there are the full moons, there's different kinds of harvest moons, and all of those different moon phases can be used for different kinds of magic, which, if you guys aren't watching and paying attention, you can feel the energy. I always feel like I can feel the energy. And I don't just mean like because I work in retail and I can see that people are whacked out. But, you know, on a full moon, usually I find myself staring up at the sky, looking at the stars, and I feel energized. I feel that energy from the moon, and I feel like everything around me is supercharged, which is why, you know, we make full moon water, and you can harness the moon's energy for a ritual or for a spell or any type of magic that you're using, but you can also use it to recharge yourself. And you can even, you know, you can cleanse things with it depending on the kind of moon. You can cleanse your crystals, you can cleanse your tarot decks, you can get different types of readings from your tarot decks. I noticed that on a new moon, I find that it's kind of like a lot of what I find in my tarot readings kind of tend to be a bit more positive, whereas on a waning moon, they can be kind of more somber, or they'll be a bit more serious. And that also depends on what I'm asking the cards, but generally I just notice that. And further, honestly, the moon phases are the one thing that if you're a newbie, you want to start, in my opinion, you want to start paying attention to. Because if you learn basic magic, you can tap into a lot of power, and you can learn more about yourself and your own energy and your own, you know, your unique persona, and the way that your psyche and your heart and your magic that's within you can work with the earth. And like I said, we're a nature-based religion. For predominantly pagans and witches, typically deal with the earth, and they deal with nature. And since the moon is part of nature, the moon phases are something that it's a foundation subject. You know, it's the basis for working on you know, especially for esbats and sabats, you can do a lot with those, and that can start you out. So, you know, I like I said, I felt like these 2 weeks were kind of overview subjects. They weren't something that necessarily needed a super long video for each, so I just decided to do one, and I will be hopefully putting up. I did work on my altar, and I'm kind of excited to show you guys. It's a little bit plain compared to some of the ones I've seen, but for me it's exactly what I want, and I can't wait to put up the video for that, so I will be doing that shortly. I hope you guys have a great rest of the day, and it's also St. Patrick's Day, so it's my grandma's birthday, so everybody say happy birthday to her, and I'll be seeing you very soon. Bye bye.